On this video here, we have a 4x3 PVC toilet flange, which has been broken due to years of use and the floor possibly being unlevel. What we're doing here right now is we're sticking a rag down into the pipe, the waste pipe, so that when we start to chip pieces off of the flange to get it ready to install the new one, the pieces of PVC that we break off will not go down into the sewer system. And we're just taking the hammer just to get the toilet flange totally loose. Now we're going to shove the rag down a little deeper to make it easier to get to the toilet flange. And what we're doing here is we're going to cut a little slot out so that it'll make it easier for us to chip the remaining of the toilet flange out of here. And notice when we go to cut, we're not going to cut too deep. Start to chip the PVC pieces off of the pipe itself. We're going to it'll make it a lot easier. And right here we're using a screwdriver. You can use a chisel if you like, but in a lot of cases, some people we do have screwdrivers that are easier to get to than a chisel, especially when you're in the middle of a job. You notice how the PVC breaks out easily. You would think after years of being glued that this wouldn't be possible, but it is. And what we're doing is, when we go to chisel, is we're finding the right at the seam where the fitting of the 4x3 flange is glued to the pipe, and we're just wedging it right down between the seams and starting to pull the flange away from the PVC pipe. And when I say 4x3 PVC toilet flange, that means that the this particular toilet flange can go inside a 4-inch pipe or on the outside of a 3-inch pipe. And of course, this here in the floor, this PVC pipe here is 4-inch. And if you were to find one that is a 3-inch pipe and the flange is going to the outside, you can use this same procedure. But you will have to probably, most likely, chip out some of the cement around it to get access down about 3 inches. And the video that you're seeing to the right side of you, that's the video that is up next. If you want to click the next button, and you can go to that video, which is showing you how to repair a floor up under a toilet, a rotten floor, wood floor that's been damaged of years of leaking. Okay, now we're getting pretty close to removing most of the chips that are on the side of the pipe, and we're going to continue to leave the rag down in there until we are done with the process of replacing the flange. Here we are, a 3x4 flush fit toilet flange. So when you do go to replace this flange, remember to ask for a flush fit 4x3. And of course here we're priming the pipe, and the primer is going to start heating the pipe up and cleaning it, so that when we do apply the glue, and the combination of the primer and glue kind of just helps it adhesive together and fuse together real nice and strong, so that have a nice tight seal and it won't come out on you. In most cases, when you do a flange like this and you glue it down like we're doing here, you might want to leave it and let it cure for about 2 or 3 hours before you actually set the toilet in place. As you can see, this flange fit nicely. Thank you. Hello everyone, this is another toilet flange repair, similar to one of the other ones I did, the PVC flange repair trick. But this one is what makes this different is we're going to use something to extend our flange deep down into the ground, because this pipe has been cut way too low below the floor, so we need to reach that pipe, and so we're going to add a extension. You can go out and buy a flange that has an extra long extension, but they're really hard to find. So I'm going to show you, we're going to make our own extension here with 3-inch PVC coupling and a little bit of 3-inch pipe, and we're going to make this reach down in there and make the shaft of the flange much longer so that we don't have to worry about it. This is the saw that I'm using. This is a PVC saw. It helps make nice straight cuts. Anyway, let's get started and let's see what's going on. Okay, what we're doing here now is we're going to cut 2 notches into the toilet flange right here at the top. We want to cut it close enough so we really don't cut too deep into the 4-inch pipe that the flange is sitting in. And once we cut these 2 notches out, it'll make it easy for us to take a screwdriver, a large screwdriver, and just wedge between the 2 pieces of plastic and wedge them apart, and will make this toilet flange really easy to just pull up out of here. Even though it's been glued for some years, this glue can be wedged apart using the process that we're using right now. And once this flange is pulled up, you'll see that this flange actually was not really down deep into the 4-inch pipe, which, I mean, it looks bad enough now, but it would have been a more serious issue later once this pipe would have just came right up out the ground. And this is why we're going to use the extension that we're going to make. Right here you see me wedging this piece out, and obviously you can see by looking at it once this piece is wedged out, it makes it easy to make room, just wedge the flange right out of here. And if you look close, you can see that the top of the 4-inch pipe coming up from the ground is just shy a few inches, and it's not a good connection to begin with. Yeah, see, that came up a little too easy. You can see how deep the 4-inch PVC pipe is down into the ground, which is too deep. But that's okay, because we're going to make something work. We're going to add an extension. We're going to make the this flange right here. Obviously, this flange is too short to actually go down deep enough into the 4-inch PVC, so this is where we're going to make up our own extension. That size of that flange, the outside, is the size that would fit a 3-inch pipe and go inside a 4-inch. So what I'm going to do, it's going to work perfect. By the way, this is a 4 by 3-inch toilet flange, meaning that it will go inside a 4-inch or on the outside of a 3-inch. And here's a 3-inch piece of pipe that we're going to use to make our extension with this 3-inch pipe and 3-inch coupling. And what I'm doing here, I'm just gluing the toilet flange on right now, and just kind of size it up to cut just a small piece on. Cut a small piece off so that we can fit the coupling on, and it'll be nice and flush with the flange itself. And you see that little knotted piece sitting right there. We're going to file that off and make it smooth as the side of the coupling itself, so that it'll go down the pipe without any issues. Again, this is the PVC saw that I'm using. Of course, mine's been used. This is what we're going to use, and it's going to get us a nice straight cut. By the way, this glue that I'm using, this hot blue glue, oh man, this is really good glue. Remember, when using this glue, work fast, because it doesn't take long for this to set up. Work fast. Now that we have coupling on here, we have our 4x3 toilet flange with an extension. And there's that little piece right there that we want to file off to smooth it so we can go push it straight down into the 4-inch PVC in the ground. I filed a little bit off, but we're going to file a little bit more off. And what I like to do before I usually before setting the toilet is to put my toilet bolts on. And I like to actually, sometimes I end up using 2 packages of toilet bolts, because I like to use the extra bolt to bolt it down to the flange, so that when you do go set the toilet, the toilet bolts are not moving on you and making it hard for you to set the toilet. Once you see how I have this set, you'll like it, the way that it's set up for installing a toilet. And of course, this is a metal ring. There's always the debate about using a metal ring as opposed to using a PVC plastic ring. A lot of issues are that the metal ring will rust, and of course that does happen, especially when you do have issues with the flange to begin with. The PVC flange, the issue that I have with putting that down into the ground at times, especially in a time like this, you don't have time to try to line it up. You have to work fast, and with this metal ring I can adjust it once it's set any way I want to. Now the toilet bolt's on nice and tight, and we're about ready to and one thing, it is a tight fit. It is a tight fit. It's a lot of cases it's not going to be that easy just to push it down with your hands. You're going to see that I'm actually going to have to step on this to get it down in there. And to make this a little easier, I'll just file the edges off into like a little bevel. Yeah, I'm working on it, and of course finish filing down the little knot right there that's in the way. And right here I'm beveling the edge of the pipe so that it'll go down into the 4-inch PVC a lot easier, because it is a tight fit, a very tight fit. And once you see this go in, you know it's not coming out. And no, I'm not using any primer, because like I said, the pipe that the PVC glue that I am using, it's very strong, so we're not going to need any pipe cleaner for this. Now you see how that went there? That was not it was not easy to go with the hand, so I did have to use my feet and put my weight into it. And now this is what I was talking about. The metal flange is easy to adjust, and you can set it anywhere you want because it's movable, where the plastic flange, you wouldn't have that opportunity to do that. And this is so tight down in there that I have to actually use a screwdriver a little just to kind of get it around to center it. And no, I didn't use any anchor bolts to anchor it down to the ground, because as you can see, there was really nowhere to put it because of the way that the cement was forming into the hole itself. But this will be down nice and tight, and this is the end, and what I'm doing here is caulking the toilet down. And the caulking is actually used more as a seal to keep water from getting up under the toilet itself when there's any water on the floor, mopping, etc., to keep germs and stuff like that out. Well, hiding into the crevices of the
Okay, what we have here is an older, well, it's a PVC 4x3 closet flange, and you could see that it wasn't really holding anything, and this was making the toilet wobble. Now, this is a difficult spot, and it's going to require a difficult flange. Well, a flange that's going to make this easier. Here is a 4x3 flange with an 8-inch extension. That's more than enough to reach down and grab onto the other parts of the PVC once we primer and glue it together. Now we have it glued, primered, in position, and you can see down there how far the extension goes, and we have a nice solid connection. Now from here we can go ahead.
First things first, let's cut the water to the toilet off. And now let's flush the remaining water out of the tank. Let's get all the water out of the tank. much out of the tank as we can before we take our sponge and sponge the remaining amount of water out. And now we're going to take our plunger and get as much water out of the bowl itself. And once we get as much water out of the bowl as we can, we're going to, again, take our sponge up the rest of it. So what we're trying to do is get as much water out as we can. Lift the toilet, then we don't have water going everywhere. Let's remove the supply line to the toilet. You can tell this one has been on for a while. It's still pretty stiff. That's okay, we'll get it off. And the area that we're working in is pretty tight. Right up against the vanity on one side and the tub on the other. If you notice, at times the plumber will reach around the back side of the toilet to get to the supply line. Cases, you're not going to run to a supply line that is hard to take off. And here what we're going to do, rather than this is in cases where you have a toilet and the toilet bolts are rusted out and you really can't get it out. The easiest way to do it is just break the toilet right there where the bolts are holding it down, and it should come right up, and then we'll worry about the bolts. Start with the flange, it'll be a lot easier to get to. As you can see, this is one of the biggest problems that they have with the toilet. The floor is starting to deteriorate, and when this happens, the toilet kind of gets loose and wobbles back and forth a little easier, and that's not good for the wax ring or the seal. So what we're going to do here is we're going to remove this floor and replace it with another floor, a lot stronger, much better, so that the toilet will be nice and stable. flowing out of there. And we're going to clean up this little spot right here. The flange is also broke, and we're going to replace the flange also. This is an old cast iron flange and cast iron pipe. If you're familiar with the lead and oakum, this cast iron pipe's been put in with lead and oakum, the flange. But we're going to use a new technique when we go to install the new cast iron flange. Melting lead and oakum is not required for what we're going to do. And we're going to finish getting the rest of this floor out of here. Just cut us a nice square. Take out as much bad flooring as possible. Okay, now that we've got our floor cut out with the reciprocating saw, now it's time to start pulling this floor up. And this floor is pretty shot, so it's going to come up in pieces. It's not going to be one flush piece. It's going to, as you can see, this is due to years of moisture buildup on the floor. If given the time, and if you do have the time, I would recommend actually replacing the whole floor since you're going to do this, because it may not look like it's damaged pretty bad up underneath, but as you can see here, the water's got up under the towel, kind of spread out on the top. But the top part is probably the worst part of the floor. Side of the flange, so we can just take the flange out in pieces. And what we have here is a side angle grinder, and we have a diamond blade on it. It rips right through cast iron. Pretty much any hard substance. Okay, now you see that we have it cut. We have you can probably see the little slits in the side, and what we're going to do here is we're going to take our pry bar or whatever we have, and we're going to wedge it between the cracks and just kind of pry it loose. See how it comes right in half, and we're just going to take that old flange off of there.
the old lead. And of course, this is a bottom view of the floor that we're replacing, and the toilet collar, that's what it's called. And here we're just going to add a few. This is pretty thick floor. It's been repaired through years, and they've got like 2 inches of floor. So here is about a 3/4 inch piece of wood, and we're going to take a piece of plywood that we've cut to fit in the spot. This here is a repair flange. This is a cast iron repair flange. You notice the rubber in the middle. This is what is going to seal the pipe and the flange from any leaks from up under the toilet or whenever the toilet is flushed. And it should just fit right over the pipe. If it doesn't, just pull it back up and kind of adjust the screws where it opens up. You can get it in there. Now, one of the only things left to do is tighten the bolts so that it will compress the rubber ring together, causing a nice tight seal. And of course, before setting the toilet, clean the pipe out pretty good, and screw the flange down to the floor.
On this project, we're going to replace the toilet flange. This is what you might see if you were down in the basement. Now we're upstairs, and this is a repair flange that I have here. You see the black rubber seal, and now you see the bolts that require an Allen wrench. And once you start squeezing down the bolts, the black rubber will start to expand, and this will cause the flange to seal tightly into the old pipe. And what we're doing here is we're lining the closet bolt holes where the closet bolts are going to be. We're lining them up at each side. It should be anywhere from 12 to 13 inches off the floor to the center of the pipe. And this is exactly where the toilet bolts are going to go to bolt the toilet down. You see, we're trying to square it up. And once we have it square to where we want it, then we're going to grab our Allen wrench set and slowly start tightening the bolts, going back and forth until we get it to where we want it. We don't want to just tighten one bolt straight down. We want to just kind of work it around, kind of slowly work it around, so that we will have a even tightness all the way around. And you notice, I don't know if you can see it, but when we tighten down on the bolts, there's a piece inside that's steadily coming up and causing the black rubber piece to expand outward. And once this is in place, you won't be able to pull this up. You can see now we're trying to pull it up and it's not coming up, and it's sealed tight. And now you have your new flange down on the toilet. And the next thing we want to do is take our screws and screw it down. Now, if you do have a cement floor where you can't screw it down, this flange is held so tight up against that pipe. In some cases, it's not even necessary to screw it down like I'm doing here. But this is just an extra precaution, and we do have a wooden floor here where the screws can go into. Well, and another thing, see how this plaster Paris level won't have to worry about floor is the toilet. If the toilet needs to be relifted in the future, we're going to the toilet come right up, and the plaster Paris will stay right in place. And we're going to use some plaster Paris to stick it to the toilet with the floor off, so that when we set the toilet back, the toilet will be nice, level, steady, and straight. First, we're going to cut the water to the toilet off. And what I like to do is take a plunger and just plunge the remaining water in the tank out, in the bowl itself. Now let's disconnect the supply line to the toilet tank. And another thing, usually I like to put a small bowl or make sure that you have a towel underneath the nice big sponge, excess water that comes set to the side off after ready to go on the supply line. And what we're going to do with the sponge is remove the soak the sponge closet water, and when we start wiping on the toilet, you'll see here and a little bit side reset the toilet.
I thought you were still out the bar. Yes, ma'am. Oh, this girl came home, yeah. Oh, okay. How time did you get home the other night? About 12 something. Really? Did you finish it? Yeah.
And don't worry about putting too much plaster Paris down there, because we're going to wipe the excess plaster Paris away anyway. It looks as though someone has tried to make repairs before. Toilet in place. And what I like to do is I like to leave the existing wax on there, just just put a whole new wax ring right on top of there. Just it's always good to have just to squish it down right on top of the plaster Paris. I mean, it's not hurting in the wax. Just wax it on there and get a nice seal on the toilet. Now we have the toilet where we want. We just take our hand and start pushing the plaster Paris up with our shims and start any void that you might see up on the toilet. We're going to fill all these voids so we can have a nice tight seal, and the shims we're going to fill all the voids, flush fit, all the low spots of the floor. And as we're doing this, we have the sponge and shims in place. That's when we're going to mix our plaster Paris and just kind of place the plaster Paris around it so that we can start leveling this floor off. Soak the sponge real good.
Now, I usually carry a plastic container around in my truck. Purpose for the sponge is so that we can get a nice plaster Paris in, smooth and clean finish. So if you have something like this, this is fine. And yes, that's the plaster Paris, and you can find it in most hardware stores. Now when you mix plaster Paris, all you're going to use is water, and you're just going to mix it just as if you would mix a cake. Mix or we start flushing the excess away. You're just going to wipe mixing it until you get the right. Then we just continuously rinse the sponge out back and forth. Watery, not till we get to the biggest problem. Mixing it not too thick. I mean, get our nice mixing it thick is now that each time we will dry fast and you want to start using less water to set this towel in place before it dries too fast until close to the last wipe, and we want the sponge kind of dry. Now, one of the things you can't see right now is film and the excess. I am running the water in the face bowl towel. Now, if you're close to the tub, that's another place you can run the water. And as I'm mixing the plaster Paris, I just continuously let the water in the face bowl or tub just run, so that after my mixing I can wash my hands and the excess plaster Paris is just washed down the drain, and just keep the water running so it don't clog it up just until it dilutes and flushes it all away. And another thing, this plaster Paris, you remember, have to worry about it watery. It's going to run everywhere. If the toilet needs to be, not going to do you any good. Relifted in the future. So now we have the toilet to come right up, and the plaster Paris to stay right in place. And we can start placing it over the toilet. Won't be a problem. Shims and filling all the voids, all the low spots of the floor. And another thing, this plaster Paris, you won't have to worry about it sticking to the toilet. If the toilet needs to be relifted in the future, the toilet will come right up, and the plaster Paris will stay right in place. So sticking to the toilet won't be a problem. And another thing, make sure that you have a nice big sponge set to the side, ready to go. And what we're going to do with the sponge is we're going to soak the sponge with water, and we're going to start wiping around the toilet. You'll see here in a little bit when we reset the toilet.
I thought you were still out the barber. He just left. Oh, did he? He just left and came home, yeah. About 12 something.
Really? Did you finish it?
Yeah.
And don't worry about putting too much plaster Paris down there, because we're going to wipe the excess plaster Paris away anyway. Now we set our toilet in place. And we just kind of squish it down right on top of the plaster Paris and the wax ring. Now we have the toilet where we want. We just take our hand and start pushing the plaster Paris up into the any void that you might see up under the toilet. We're going to fill all these voids so we can have a nice tight seal and a nice flush fit. And as we're doing this, we have the sponge to the side. Make sure that we soak the sponge real good. The purpose for the sponge is so that we can get a nice, smooth, and clean finish. See, we take the sponge and the water, and we start flushing the excess away and wiping it up in the sponge. Then we just continuously rinse the sponge out back and forth until we get to the point where we get our nice smooth finish. Now each time we come back with the sponge, we start using less and less water until close to the last wipe, and we want the sponge kind of dry so we can wipe up the film and the excess of the plaster Paris around the towel and the toilet.